If your home was built after the year 2000, there is an 80% chance that the walls, the roof deck, and the subfloor are made of glued wood chips. Not plywood, not solid wood. Compressed strands of junk timber bonded with synthetic resin and wax. The building industry calls it oriented strand board. Contractors call it OSB. The material it replaced was plywood, cross-laminated wood veneer that dominated American construction for 50 years. Your builder made the switch, saved approximately $700 per house. You were never told. You were never asked. And the company that pioneered this material paid nearly $1 billion in lawsuit settlements after its product literally grew mushrooms on 800,000 homes. In 1905, a box factory owner in Portland, Oregon, exhibited something nobody had seen before. He showed 3 thin sheets of wood glued together, with the grain of each layer running perpendicular to the next. He had just invented the material that would build America. Gustav Carlson of Portland Manufacturing Company introduced commercial softwood plywood at the Lewis and Clark World's Fair. He made the panels using paintbrushes as glue spreaders and house jacks as presses. By 1907, his factory was producing 420 panels per day. Cross-lamination is what makes plywood work. Each layer's grain runs perpendicular to the next. This makes the panel strong in all directions. Dimensionally stable, resistant to splitting at edges. It holds nails. It resists impact. And when it gets wet, it dries out and returns close to its original shape. By the Second World War, plywood was critical infrastructure, used for barracks, PT boats, and landing craft. Production hit 1.8 billion square feet. By 1960, it reached 7.8 billion square feet. For 50 years, from the 1940s through the 1990s, plywood was the unchallenged standard for walls, roofs, and subfloors in American homes. In the late 1970s, someone figured out how to turn the trees that plywood manufacturers threw away into structural panels. The panels were $8 cheaper per sheet. That was all it took. Waste became profit. OSB is made from thin rectangular strands sliced from small diameter junk trees. Aspen, poplar, fast-growing softwoods that are worthless for plywood veneer. The strands are mixed with wax and synthetic resin and hot pressed into panels. Strands and glue do the work. The first commercial wafer board plant opened in 1961 in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan. Modern OSB with oriented strand layers arrived in 1982 from Elmendorf Manufacturing in Claremont, New Hampshire. This was a turning point. OSB costs roughly $8 less per sheet than plywood for wall and roof sheathing. For a typical 2,400 square foot home requiring 175 to 250 sheets, the savings add up to approximately $700 at builder volume pricing. At retail, the gap can reach $1,500 to $2,500. Those are real savings. Builders switched. They did not pass the savings to buyers. They did not tell buyers. The change was quiet and deliberate. Building codes treat OSB and plywood as interchangeable under the umbrella term wood structural panel. The switch was invisible, and that helped it spread. Invisible decisions can have big consequences. In 1980, North American OSB production was 751 million square feet. By 2005, it was 25 billion, a 33-fold increase in 25 years. Today, 4 out of 5 new homes use OSB. Today, the market is dominated by these panels. The organization that certifies OSB as equal to plywood used to be called the American Plywood Association. They changed their name in 1994. That was the same year OSB began to win market share. The APA, now called the Engineered Wood Association, certifies both products to the same performance standard. Building codes rely on this certification to treat them as interchangeable. The APA was founded in 1933 as the Douglas Fir Plywood Association. It was renamed the American Plywood Association in 1964 and renamed again to the Engineered Wood Association in 1994. At the precise moment OSB was surging past plywood in market share. The APA is a non-profit funded by member dues from approximately 175 mills, including every major OSB manufacturer: Louisiana Pacific, Georgia Pacific, Weyerhaeuser, West Fraser, and Huber. The organization certifying that OSB equals plywood is funded by the companies that profit from that equivalence. Equal means they meet the same minimum benchmarks. It does not mean they are the same material. They differ dramatically in moisture response, drying speed, nail holding, impact resistance, and lifespan. Chris Beyer, the marketing director of Georgia Pacific, a company that manufactures both OSB and plywood, said it plainly: plywood is better. OSB swells when it gets wet. That is not the problem. The problem is that it never goes back. In a 24-hour soak test, OSB swells 15 to 29% in thickness. Plywood swells 6 to 8%. But the critical difference is what happens when they dry. Plywood returns close to its original dimensions. OSB does not. The swelling is permanent. Professor Chris Tim Musk confirmed this in his doctoral research. OSB will never return to original factory dimensions once it has been through even one wetting and drying cycle. A 40-week study published in CLM magazine found that after 10 to 11 wet-dry cycles, OSB exceeded 45% thickness swell and kept getting worse. Plywood showed repeatable elastic expansion of about 12% and contraction to about 6% with no delamination. The strength loss is catastrophic. A Czech university study found that after only 1.7% non-recoverable swelling, OSB stiffness dropped 40.7%. Through repeated moisture cycling, OSB permanently loses approximately 60% of its original strength. You can see the damage from outside. Swollen panel edges telegraph through roof shingles as visible ridges called ghost lines. Swollen subfloor seams create bumps under finished flooring. Sagging OSB roof decking creates visible waves across roof lines. Contractors on professional forums report tearing OSB off homes only 6 to 7 years old because it was sagging so badly between trusses. Every house gets rained on during construction. Framing takes 4 to 6 weeks. Every cut edge loses its factory seal and wicks up water like a straw. The swelling begins before the buyer moves in. Plywood breathes. Its vapor permeance rises to over 30 perms at high humidity, letting moisture escape through the panel. OSB barely reaches 10 perms, even at 100% relative humidity. It traps moisture inside. The material that is supposed to protect the skeleton of your house holds water against it. The marketing director of Georgia Pacific, a company that manufactures both OSB and plywood, said it himself. Plywood is better. It holds nails better too. A PA testing shows plywood holds plain shank nails 18% better than OSB, and screw shank nails 31% better. In a hurricane, the roof sheathing's grip on fasteners is the difference between keeping your roof and losing it. Plywood is 10 to 15% stiffer than OSB at equal joist spacing. Independent testing found spruce plywood 1.8 times stiffer. Stiffness matters. The impact test is definitive. In the Miami-Dade Large Missile Test, a 9-pound 2x4, fired at 34 miles per hour, penetrates 19/32 of an inch of OSB. It cannot penetrate 5/8 of an inch of plywood. Jose Matrani, civil engineer and Florida International University professor who served on the Hurricane Andrew Damage Assessment Task Force, put it directly. During that experiment we call Andrew, OSB did not behave as an equal to plywood. Miami-Dade and Broward counties, the strictest building codes in the United States, banned OSB from roof sheathing after Andrew. They remain the only jurisdictions with such a ban. The rest of the country still treats the two materials as identical. In 1985, Louisiana Pacific started selling an OSB siding product with a 25-year warranty. They called it the Smart Man's Plywood. Within a decade, mushrooms were growing out of 800,000 homes. Louisiana Pacific had been spun off from Georgia Pacific in 1973 by a Federal Trade Commission order to break up a plywood monopoly, and it became an OSB pioneer. Their flagship product, Inner Seal, was an OSB-based exterior siding stamped with patterns imitating cedar and marketed as superior to plywood. The product absorbed moisture through every edge and nail hole. It delaminated. It swelled. It cracked. It rotted. Clusters of fungi grew from the undersides of panels. Moisture spread behind the panels and rotted structural framing, damage that often went undetected until it was severe. Hurricane Andrew in 1992 shredded LP panels across South Florida and exposed the failures publicly. Approximately 800,000 homes were affected. Over 100,000 claims were filed. LP paid a total approaching $1 billion. The original settlement was $275 million. Supplemental contributions brought it to between $475 and $500 million. Additional settlements, criminal fines, and Environmental Protection Agency penalties pushed the total still higher. LP pleaded guilty to 18 felony charges, including Clean Air Act violations for tampering with emissions monitors and falsifying reports at their Colorado plant, and product fraud for selling mislabeled wafer board to the United States Defense Department. The criminal fine for Clean Air Act violations was the largest ever imposed at that time. CEO Harry Merlo was forced to resign in August 1995. 2 plant superintendents were punished. No chief executive was prosecuted. Lester Building Systems used LP siding on agricultural buildings, and they won a $13.2 million jury verdict for repair costs on siding that had originally cost $3.4 million. The repair was nearly 4 times the purchase price. The material that replaced plywood because it was cheaper got more expensive too, and that was not an accident. In 2006, a class action antitrust lawsuit alleged that 9 OSB manufacturers, controlling approximately 95% of the North American market, conspired to simultaneously curtail production while demand was climbing. LP eliminated production at all North American OSB mills on 2 separate occasions and took downtime at 13 of 14 facilities. Georgia Pacific OSB shipments declined 13%. Prices spiked from below $200 per 1,000 square feet to $520 per 1,000 square feet. LP reported a 723% increase in OSB profits from 2002 to 2003. Norboard profits rose 400%. Total settlements exceeded $120 million. During the COVID lumber crisis, OSB prices spiked from approximately $9 per sheet to over $42 at retail. The National Association of Home Builders estimated that lumber and panel price increases added over $36,000 to the cost of a new single-family home. OSB was the last panel category to return to normal pricing. A UMass Amherst analysis described the OSB industry as an oligopoly where manufacturers become price setters when demand approaches capacity. It would have cost your builder $700 more to sheath your house in plywood. Nobody asked you if you wanted to pay it. $700 is less than the cost of a refrigerator, less than the bathroom tile upgrade, less than the countertop choice you spent 2 weeks agonizing over. It is the one decision that affects the structural skeleton of the house, and it is the one decision the buyer is never offered. When OSB fails, the costs dwarf the savings. Subfloor replacement runs from $6 to $10 per square foot installed. For a full home, that is $14,000 to $24,000. Roof deck replacement during re-roofing adds $1,000 to $2,000. Structural damage behind swollen, mold-laden sheathing is unpredictable and potentially catastrophic. Plywood lasts 40 to 60 years in protected conditions. OSB lasts 20 to 30 years. Over the life of a home, OSB may need replacement once or twice. Plywood likely never. Premium alternatives already exist that eliminate OSB's only advantage. Zip System by Huber integrates a weather barrier onto the panel for roughly $35 per sheet. Advantech by Huber is a moisture-resistant OSB with a 500-day no sanding guarantee for roughly the same price. Both cost about as much as plywood. The cost advantage that justified the switch disappears entirely. If you want to know what is in your walls, go to your attic and look at the underside of the roof sheathing. OSB has a distinctive compressed chip texture. Plywood shows visible wood grain layers. Remove a floor vent and look at the subfloor edge. If your home was built after 2000, it is almost certainly OSB. If you are buying or building new, ask for plywood. It costs $700. It is the cheapest structural upgrade available, and it is the only one that protects the bones of the house. Every time we tell this story, the ending is the same. A material that worked was replaced by a material that sold. Roman concrete healed its own cracks, replaced by Portland cement that crumbles in 50 years. Lime mortar protected buildings for 6,000 years, and contractors are destroying 200-year-old brick with $8 cement. Lime plaster was fireproof, soundproof, and self-healing, replaced by drywall that grows mold in 48 hours. Slate roofing lasted 200 years, replaced by petroleum shingles that fill 13 million tons of landfill every year. And plywood, cross-laminated wood veneer that held nails, shed water, and protected the skeleton of a house for 50 years, replaced by glued wood chips that swell when they get wet and never go back. 6 materials, 6 stories, and in every case the replacement was faster, cheaper, and worse. Not because the original failed, because someone found a way to save $700. Somewhere right now, a framing crew is nailing OSB sheathing to a house that will sell for $400,000. It is raining. The edges of every cut panel are wicking up water like a straw. The swelling has already started. It will never reverse. The builder saves $700. The buyer will live inside that decision for 30 years and never know it was made.